Hello and welcome to the weekly web check-in video. I so appreciate all your hard work and thoughtfulness that you are contributing to this class, especially this week with the power out and windstorm. So thank you for everybody getting your postings in when you were able to. It's exciting to think that we are now about a third of the way through the lessons and that we'll also get a chance to talk in person this week. So let's start with some of the logistics. There's just 3 reminders or updates. Like I just said, Wednesday is our first in-person seminar from 12:30 to 3:30 in the Meridian Professional Development Room. I put the address on the course homepage just in case you need it. An important reminder is you do need your DataWise textbook for this. And as I mentioned in the last lesson, there's about 20 minutes-ish in the session that we're going to provide to work on assignment 2, so you can plan accordingly for that. Since I'm speaking about assignment 2, it is in regards to the data inventory, and I will talk more about this on Wednesday, but I think it's important to mark the due date as it falls at or near or during most of your spring breaks. So again, just planning accordingly. And then like I've mentioned just the last few lessons, the annotated reading journal isn't due until June 5th, but I recommend completing it as we go, just so you don't save it all for the end. In terms of the discussion forum this week, to lesson 3, I really appreciate the reflection that it sparked. There was analysis of gaps in data literacy, impacts from when there's been a lack of data literacy, and agreement that data literacy is needed. Question 1 asks whether or not you agree that the skills and knowledge covered in this lesson are the skills teachers needed. And all the responses to this question included that we do need these skills. And of course, a lot of it hinged on student learning. But additional reasons included the opportunity to better communicate with parents in the community. Amy and Dawn added that the skills are necessary to defend the profession, and that without the skills, educators are really putting themselves at a potential disadvantage. Jessica added, and I'm going to quote it, "It's our professional obligation and a responsibility we have to students to know, understand, and use data wisely." Question 2 focused on examining how teachers and schools are data literate and where there might be gaps. And there were a variety of structures indicating data literacy occurring in many of your schools and in your grade levels. To focus a little on some of the gaps that you presented, most people really acknowledged even with structures there was still a lot to learn, particularly in regards to making data mean something, painting a story, having the time for collaboration. And Vanessa specifically added time to develop the structures to interpret, communicate, and act on all this information. And finally, in question 3, many people provided examples of times and experiences where instruction was impacted as a result of a lack of data literacy, particularly, again, August meetings were brought up when data and graphs are presented on the last year's standardized testing. Glenn included his description of the gallery walk overload, to which many of you chimed in, and Kevin included his data carousel story. All great examples of times when there was potential lack of data literacy that impacted people's impressions of data. The forum questions this week even surfaced quite a bit of reflection on data literacy. Ellie added, "The more I know that I don't know," to which many chimed in. And while this lesson was more dense, thank you for reading all of the materials and watching the presentation, it really led to a greater depth in conversation and understanding of the gaps and potential next steps you might consider in your work as instructional leaders. And it will really lead us in the right direction for some of the activities we'll be doing on Wednesday in person. In terms of the next lesson, lesson 4, slideshow and presentation are up under Canvas. It's about a 23-minute presentation with an 8-minute video, so plan for about 35 to 40 minutes with reflection time. Lesson 4 is focused on actionable assessments. In lesson 3, we read and discussed some of the knowledge researchers believe teachers need to have to be data literate. And in this lesson, we'll discuss what might influence how teachers use that data. In order to get the most from this lesson, one of the tools necessary is having a common district assessment in hand. And the lesson will provide a chance to evaluate the quality of assessments, a question that seems to repeatedly show up on our forum. This lesson, for starters, will begin to explore how data can be useful and actionable, and therefore be information for teachers. We will return to some of the concepts from lesson 3 and questions about what makes an assessment valid or reliable, fair, transparent, and relevant. Some of the terms that um, were pretty dense from the last lesson. And we'll apply these ideas to assessments. We want data, of course, to be usable and actionable for teachers, but there are oftentimes multiple problems with assessments that can act as barriers. So in this lesson, we'll diagnose these problems in the presentation. And finally, we'll move forward to uncover how teacher leaders can support teachers in analysis. The goal of this lesson is to help you strengthen your own data literacy in order to build colleagues and then ensure that assessments offered in your school will and do provide rich opportunities for learning. In order to look at this topic, we'll have 2 assigned readings. We'll actually be stepping away from DataWise for this lesson, although we'll still be focusing on building assessment data literacy in that improvement process. In the Bambrick Santoyo chapter, Driven by Data, A Practical Guide to Improve Instruction, the chapter exposes ways to have a deeper level of understanding around assessment by focusing on core ideas, which you'll see nicely framed in boxes, very visually appealing, um, several data-driven success stories, and finally, identification of 5 key drivers of assessment. The second reading is from Educational Leadership and is a practitioner piece around creating student-friendly tests. The readings this week will launch us further into our discussion about organizing this work and preparing to use data effectively for instructional improvement. In terms of the discussion forum, there is a post due for Lesson 4 on Thursday, March 24th, and then, of course, responding to 2 colleagues by the 27th. That should do it for this week. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all on Wednesday in person. Take care.